we can correct certain dystopian systems. Um, Ultimately, what happens on the planet happens according to a set of shared rules or laws that lead to system design. And so, um, let's say you go to a bar and you're just trying to go to the bar to, meet people, uh, and maybe play some games of pool. And you came alone, you didn't come with a party of friends. And that bar has seen you come inside many times, and you're not a drinker. You don't go to the bar to drink, you go to the bar to be among other people, meet new people, play fun games of pool. Then the bar eventually starts to not like you. Says, we see you coming here a lot and you never buy anything from the bar. Then the bar decides to put a ban on you. Why does the bar decide to put a ban on you? Because it's actually just a dystopian profit game to make the bar rich. And so I had two older friends, one of them a sort of sequel kind of bank vice president, another one of them a attorney. They were older friends because I'm only 24. These were older men, and they were both proud to be sober. And so I would go to bars and I'd do as I said, and eventually a few of these places saw me as someone who was not playing into their profit game. I'm not a drinker. I'd meet new people, I'd play pool, and I'd never buy any drinks from the bar, and the bar didn't like that, so they might have made me 86 or banned. And that's because the world is dystopian. And so alcohol, like any other product, is just some factory-produced, optimized, formula that actually induces mild addiction in the human brain, right? And so, it's an evil system. And so a whole lot of people who are happily sober, right, are not slaves to the habit loop or craving in their brain for more alcohol. The evil cabal that mass produces, factory produces the alcohol, knows that it's going to do that to human brains, and then gets rich off enslaving the human brains by making them mildly addicted or craving more of whatever product it is. It could be alcohol, it could be nicotine in cigarettes, or it could be carbonated water, food coloring, and sugar, like in Pepsi. And so why the world is dystopian is that it's all just this evil profit game. And while everyone just goes along with it, we actually have the power to just change the whole thing. So, Anyway, so uh, so in terms of making things not dystopian, I've enjoyed my Tesla for over a year. It has no tailpipe emissions. The autopilot is safer than human drivers. My green phi is planted above 750 trees in Kenya and Haiti. The Kenyans and Haitians are employed to plant the trees. The trees sequester CO2, enough CO2 to offset the emissions of 75 cars for about a year. And that's just my contribution, but there's a whole ton of other people using the platform who also have an associated tree contribution. Planting a tree only costs a few American cents, and so instead of playing into the profit game and putting your quarters into a pool table for a pointless pool game for supposed entertainment that just makes the owner of the pool table rich, in which the owner is the only real winner because the outcome of the game is pointless. You can, instead of putting quarters in a pool table, use GreenFi and have it periodically deduct a few cents to plant a tree in Kenya or Haiti. And so instead of playing into the profit game, you are, by doing some pointless entertainment like pool, you're instead trying to make an open system where minimal contributions actually make over time an extremely large positive impact on the world. So and so a long time ago, the Lionel Messi created an ad, and the ad was a Pepsi ad. And so if you asked Lionel Messi's nutritionist where Pepsi is on his nutrition plan, the nutritionist would say, well, pretty much non-existent. We can't have Messi drinking too much Pepsi. He's a professional athlete. But however, to make money, he agrees to do an ad for Pepsi, which is just this factory-produced, optimized, addicting product, which is carbonated water, food coloring, and sugar. Then if you look at American diabetes and obesity statistics especially, well, they're horrible. And it's because the cabal is just enslaving the populace by making addicting, unhealthy things that make the cabal rich. And so the dystopian thing about the world is that it's, a lot of really smart people profiting off dumber people at the expense of the dumber people's well-being. And then the really smart people don't do anything that the dumb people do. The really smart people don't buy the addicting, unhealthy products. The really smart people don't watch that much porn or watch porn, and so on and so forth. And so you have this paradigm. Now, in my teenage years, I used to watch porn. And then throughout undergraduate, college, and so on, I've been cold turkey on pornography for largely about over 6 years at this point. And you're like, well, how do you have the willpower to do that? And so I fixed my brain. And so as a male, watching pornography um, makes you a beta. Why is this the case? Um, it gives your brain too much dopamine for barely any effort. And so for barely any effort, you can see infinite nude women on the internet. And it gives your brain a ton of dopamine. Compare that to actually having worldly success such that a woman wants to be involved with you and actually having real sex. The level of difficulty of doing the latter is much higher. And so by going cold turkey on porn, you fix your brain's reward mechanism, where instead of low effort, high reward, your brain gets coupled to high effort, high reward, where you must experience pain, suffering, loneliness, isolation, working, failing, succeeding after a long time, and then the rewards come after prolonged efforts, which is called delayed gratification. And so the male and female porn stars and the porn companies get rich off all the betas who do the low effort, high reward thing of consuming pornographic content, which makes their brain a beta brain. And so this entire world can be modeled as profit systems with alphas and betas. So anyway, that being said, I'm only 24 and I don't really own anything significant. I have an undergrad degree in math, physics, and computer science, and I'm starting a graduate degree in electrical engineering, a master's. And then I became a US citizen and I paid my taxes and I got a US passport, so on. But I really would say that, my lifestyle is I rent a place, which is a great, cheap rent deal for the quality of the place, which I enjoy. And then I lease a Tesla. So I don't own a home. I don't own a car. And you're like, well, Aaron, you're about to be 25. Why don't you get a mortgage for a home? And the answer is I did my undergrad in Oregon, and then I got into grad school in Illinois at Northwestern. And so knowing that I would be moving to Illinois, I rented, while I was working in Oregon. Because why would I get a mortgage for a home or this, that, and the other in Oregon if I'm going to do grad school in Illinois? And so upon moving to Illinois, I wouldn't just say, okay, because I got into a great grad school in Northwestern in Illinois, I'm going to go ahead and buy a home or get a mortgage for a home in Illinois. Test the waters and switch from renting in Oregon to renting in Illinois. So I rent a place that is a great deal, and I lease a Tesla that's also a great deal. And so although I don't own a home or own a car, these, my quality of life for my monthly expenses on place of abode and means of transport is good. Um, so um, so anyway, um, um, anyway, um, so back on like fixing dystopian systems. Um, if you want to make the porn industry non-dystopian, the other thing is that you need to stop with all the exaggerations. Um, and so I'm going to cite an example. The break is often thought to be one of the largest in the entire porn industry, right? And so from viewer consensus, from Break's scenes, who's Julio Gomez, it's pretty much thought to be that his actual bone press direct length is about 10 inches. However, Break himself and then the porn industry goes along with exaggerating him to 14 inches. Why is this bad? So, me, as a 6'4" brown man, in that I have Caucasian genetics and African genetics, my bone press direct length ranges from at least 9 inches to maximum 10 inches. In other words, my bone pressed size is comparable to Break's size when I'm fully erect. But if I told a girl BPL I ranged from 9 to 10, and then that girl, has seen Break scenes and then thinks that Break is actually 14, it causes dissonance. It causes false understanding. And so on this website called Big One Dating, which I decided to start a profile on, right? A female that was interested in me messaged me and said I needed to be dominant and I needed to be, get this, at least 10 inches. Now, that to me is ridiculous, because even the Break, who is known to be one of the largest in the whole industry, actually has a bone press size of approximately 10 inches, right? And so in reality, a woman who is a size queen should actually say at least 8 inches bone pressed. That's actually what it corresponds to, because if she's saying at least 10 inches and then she thinks that Break is actually 14, that would make sense. But Break is actually 10 bone pressed. For all the size queens out there, fix your understanding. It's just because everything is lying to you. So anyway, um, um, so anyway, um, yeah. Um, so anyway, um, and so from like not watching uh, porn at all, I've had a lot of worldly success because my brain is coupled to um, you know, pain, a lot of high effort for high reward. So if you can make the switch of your brain from low effort, high reward to high effort, high reward, it changes your whole life. And so anyway, one of my sexual partners at only age 24 was actually 35, and so had a whole lot of more experience. And so she was 5'10" and 160 pounds and 35 years old, and the majority of that weight was on her backside. So anyway, one of the first times we were successful, I asked her, well, how many times did you reach orgasm? Her response was, I don't know, like 4 times, and my legs were shaking. So, you go from, cold turkey on porn, worldly success, and making a woman 11 years older than you have 4 leg shaking orgasms, right? So, anyway. So anyway, um, um, yeah. So anyway, so anyway, the other thing is that for the females that may not know this, the average bone pressed erect size in the US is 5.16. And if you wanted to find what is the country on the planet Earth with the largest average bone pressed erect length, it is Sudan, Africa, in which the average is 7.1. Right? Um, so, uh, yeah. Um, Anyway, um, yeah. Um, so consciousness can kind of take its power back and sort of deny certain dystopian systems because we have the uh, will to go along with the systems that uh, make us betas or uh, simply uh, give them no power over us. We have that ability to take the power back. Um, However, most people are too weak to understand that. So that needs to change. Um, yeah. Um, so, Dave's Hot Chicken started with $900, and I must have been four people in a parking lot, creating spicy, addicting late night chicken. And the sort of moment where it all blew up for Dave's was when some fellow involved in must have been journalism tried the chicken and then published something about uh, this late night chicken will blow your mind, and from that was published, it got a lot of attention. Now, of course, Dave's Hot Chicken is a huge success, but in their literal story, one of the things one of the things that they said is that, and we just keep on making this addicting chicken. Now, if you buy a Dave's Hot Chicken meal, it will be some, deep fried fries, then Dave sauce, and then chicken with, of course, the spice to your desired level of mild or medium or whatever you choose. And really, you can judge the healthiness of a meal by the variance in color. And so a meal could have like some green in terms of like what broccoli and lettuce, and some red in terms of tomato, and then some starch that's yellow or brown or white like rice, and then some meat that's red or brown or white. But you get a Dave's chicken meal that's just yellow fries and orange chicken and orange sauce. It's like it's just this optimized, deep fried, unhealthy fries, and optimized, unhealthy, addicting, spicy chicken. And so, as their mission statement, or not mission statement, but story as to how they created their company says, they just keep on making their addicting chicken. And all the slave consciousness keeps on buying it. And so, let's say a Dave's chicken meal may cost $13 and it comes with 2 tenders. Well, you can buy, a whole pack of of like five, uh, you know, hormone-free chicken breasts for like $15, and the terms of the amount of meat, instead of one dinner for $13, that's enough meat for five dinners for $15. But you need to cut up the chicken breast yourself and cook it, which isn't that big of a deal. But they just keep on making their addicting chicken, and all the fools who keep on buying it make them rich. And so those four guys who started it are rich, and that is dystopian. Everything is evil. It doesn't have to be this way. So, so. But anyway, um, so um, okay. Well, um, so anyway, I have like this unique enlightenment, which is why I call myself Deus Ex Machina, which is translates to God from the machine, which translates to person who turns hopeless situation to happy ending, which is why I upload this content, because in many ways, right, um, you know, with the way that um, certain systems are and the way things are, I can totally understand why someone would kill themselves, because it's dystopian. This is just dystopian. And so you can turn that hopeless dystopian systems into a happy ending, where instead of evil profit game, you have an open system. And so there's the green fi trees, there's the electric non-emitting Tesla that's autonomous and safer than human, this, that, and the other. You can change the system, make it an open system. It doesn't have to be a profit game. And so I believe in the open system. Uh, and so John D. Rockefeller, a very evil man, who is of course the reason why the oil industry is so strong, had a quote along the lines of, if you're working all the time, there's no time to make money. And what that means is that instead of you yourself working all the time, you need to find a way to get other people to work for you to make you rich, which is broken. It's exploitation. And so the cleverest men have just tried to find ways to make the machine work for them to elevate them. And that's why everything is dystopian. So, so now you might say, if with all these opinions, why in the heavens do you have a Tesla? Don't you hate billionaires, Aaron? Elon is a very, very special case. Elon did his undergrad at University of Pennsylvania in physics and business, right? And then he got into Stanford for grad school in energy physics, in which he was going to be researching um, uh, energy storage in the form of improving batteries, because he thought that for clean energy, a pivotal thing was going to be improving energy storage and improving battery technology, because of course the renewables like solar and wind, they fluctuate, and so you need batteries that are optimized to deal with fluctuations in renewable energy sources, right? And also for electric cars. And so, but about 2 days into that, he dropped out, even though he was on a scholarship to Stanford to do energy physics PhD, battery research, because the internet happened and he had this urgency to start an online transaction company. That might have been X.com or Zip2, which the founding members then sold. That company is now called PayPal.com, right? And so with the money from the sale of that company, Elon did not decide to go on some island and party with some girls. He went back to South Africa, and then he caught malaria and near death. And the near-death experience of malaria back in South Africa made him think very deeply about what the meaning of life was and what he should do. And so he said, we should make the future exciting and become spacefaring and multiplanetary, and then we should also accelerate the transition to sustainable energy. And so with the money from the sale of X.com, right, he started two companies that any sort of business advisor would say, or financial advisor would say, don't put your money in that, you're going to lose your money. He starts an electric car company to accelerate the advent of sustainable energy, and he starts a private space company to make the future exciting, but also that has practical use cases of making rockets fully reusable instead of one launch and then it's just done for, right? And then also enabling customers to utilize SpaceX's reusable system to launch their satellites, along with SpaceX's own Starlink constellation and internet service, which beams down epic internet to rural places like Africa, but also rural places in the US, like my parents' home in the state of Oregon, for which I bought them a Starlink, because it's the best possible internet solution for that rural home. And so anyway, Elon would sleep on the factory floor at Tesla, and so on and so forth. And of course, SpaceX was about to go broke, but it must have been the third launch that, for some reason worked. And if that launch did not work, they would not have enough money to do another launch. It just ended up being working, and then once it worked, they got a call from NASA and they got funding from NASA. And so, NASA and the government, right? Um, and so um, Elon, although you look at his net worth, you see he's like over 400 billion, right? That's just because he's the largest shareholder in Tesla, right? But he doesn't actually just have $400 billion lying around. He would have to liquidate or sell all of his Tesla stock to actually have that $400 billion, right? And so that's his net worth because he started a company that ended up being one of the world's greatest companies. That's why. Elon does not even take a salary at Tesla. He's just earning based on how the stock does, if you didn't know that. So, so, um, so, yeah. Um, yeah. Um, anyway, so, um, yeah. Um, and so if you didn't know this as well, so although there's criticism that okay, there's emissions involved with mining lithium for the batteries, um, uh, that is still offset for the fact that their factories are net zero architecture with like solar on the roof and then a nearby wind farm, such that the electricity utilized by the factory is clean. Um, and then the cars have no tailpipe emissions. And so that, you know, there have been emissions related to mining lithium for the batteries is a very minimal uh, negative in what is mathematically largely the best system on the planet in terms of sustainability. So, further, there is lithium in American lakes that can be extracted pretty much without emissions. Um, so, so anyway, um, so I have like this unique level of enlightenment that's like really near to the truth, and so that's why I have this channel. Now you might be like, Aaron, I thought you were the football god. Well, I'm weird. I have this uncanny ability to learn almost anything, and so there's a video of me playing Clair de Lune like Debussy. There's a video of me impersonating Frank Sinatra. There's a video in Sledgehammer where I'm doing a moonwalk like Michael Jackson. There's Peace Through Strength in my flying kick video where you can see my martial arts technique. And of course there's the soccer short where you can see that I have excellent sort of agility and sort of ball control and quickness. Even though I'm 6'4", my control and agility is as if I were shorter. And so if you look at Zlatan Ibrahimovic, he's 6'5", right? It's the same kind of thing, where usually as you get taller in soccer, you get clumsier, but I'm one of those people like Zlatan, who is like tall, but, extremely agile and quick and stuff. So, anyway, so yeah. Anyway, let's turn this hopeless situation into a happy ending. I have this channel as well as an outlet, not only for my own mental health, because instead of like talking to someone about this, I share my ideas out in the open in the hope that they can change things. And so you could argue that this is both a coping mechanism for me, but then also a method of changing the external world, is what I'm doing here. So instead of talking to someone about this, I share my own enlightenment as an outlet for my own thoughts, but also for the benefit of sharing true things with other consciousness in the hope of changing things. This is just me talking to my phone. So, anyway, subscribe to the channel. Deus Ex Machina. Out.